on the Pacers roster is most likely to still be in Indiana in 2 years? Zion Brown and I debate that with a dynamic ranking, really fun debate. We get right to it today on the Locked On Pacers podcast.
You are Locked On Pacers, your daily Indiana Pacers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Happy Thursday, and welcome into another edition of the Locked On Pacers podcast, where we, of course, talk about the Indiana Pacers. As always, my name's Tony East. I cover the team for Forbes, and today we're talking about the Pacers roster and who on it is most likely to still be on the team 2 calendar years from now, September 25th, 2027. Contracts, talent, potential, all of it considered with Zion Brown, who covers the Pacers for Meridian and IU for Roundtable. Really fun discussion, and I allowed him and myself to have dynamic lists to convince each other to move players up and down, which happened a lot, and we get to our finalists at the very end. A really fun exercise in contract length and player trade value and player tradability, who is a must-keep, who is a not must-keep, and I really enjoyed it. I hope you guys will too. We recorded this Tuesday morning, and this episode got pushed back because of Monte Morris. So one, we recorded it before Monte Morris, so you will not hear about Monte Morris in this list or in this tiering of where these players should be. He would be near the bottom just as a non-guaranteed one-year deal for me. So that's why he is not included in the exercise. But the other reason this delay actually turned out to be helpful is now I can share some thoughts on Nancy Leonard, who, if you did not see, a legend with the Pacers franchise, the widow of Bobby Slick Leonard. She passed away on Wednesday morning. The Leonard family shared condolences and thoughts are with the family. Nancy was just the best. Every time I saw her, same little wave, huge smile, happy to see everybody that she knew all the time. And of course, a huge fan of the game and franchise. The first female GM in the NBA in the 70s and has been around for forever. Of course, everybody will remember the telethon that kept the Pacers in Indiana. It is impossible to state how big that is for the Pacers being in the state of Indiana, and for the entire city of Indianapolis, and what it is now. Would the Colts be here? Would any of downtown be the same if it weren't for the Leonard family, Nancy Slick, and everyone? My condolences to her family. Such a tragic loss. I hope that if you're listening, you had any chance to meet Nancy, because she was just awesome. And it's really hard to pivot from that to talking about different topics, but we're going to do it today. Zion Brown's going to be here tomorrow. The front office will speak and address the media on Thursday. So tomorrow we'll talk all about that. And we'll get to point guard previews, which I intentionally delayed for Monte Morris reasons. Whoever they would have signed reasons. We'll do that Monday before media day. So still time to fit everything in this offseason. But let's just get right to talking with Zion Brown. The NBA changes so fast. 5 years ago, the Pacers had exactly one player on the roster who would still be on the team today, and that is TJ McConnell. And we're going to try to predict that in slightly smaller increments today. Who among the current 15 Pacers, plus I guess the 2A guys, who cares, will still be on the team 2 years from now, ranking most likely to least likely, with, I believe, a first-time guest here on Locked On Pacers. He covers IU for Roundtable. He talks about the Pacers on Right Up Meridian. It's Zion Brown. Zion, hello. How are you? I've been talking to you for years, but never on this podcast.
I know. It's a pleasure to be on. And of course, return the favor. Thank you. You came on Right Up Meridian just a couple weeks ago. We talked about the Fever, and man, we were both wrong there.
What is that? Hey, we both gave him a win. We were kind of right.
Exactly. So, we were both wrong there, and then we're about to do a ranking here where we will probably both end up being wrong here. But I love being wrong with you, Tony. No one better to be just absolutely incorrect with.
Zion met me covering the Fever when they were 5-31. If you grinded through that, you get to cover more fun things in indie sports one day. Yes, today ranking most to least likely to still be with the Pacers of the rostered players in 2 years. Although I think we can breeze through the start of this exercise. I think we should go top to bottom. I assume your top player is not going to play this coming season and wears number 0 on his jersey.
Yeah. Tyrese Haliburton's my number one. Not much to explain or describe there. That's the franchise player, and I'd be shocked if we were sitting here in September 2027 and he wasn't on the roster.
So I did not ask you to do this. Did you perhaps tier your list or just simply rank them 1 through 15?
I just ranked them. A tier, that would have been a good idea. I just ranked them. I can kind of maybe describe a tier as I go here, but to me, he's in a tier of his own.
All right, that's good. He is also in a tier of his own for me, which is maybe more surprising than the actual ranking, is that no one else is in this tier. But yeah, 2 years from now, he will still have 2 years left on his contract. He's made All-NBA 2 times. They just made the finals and conference finals with him on their team. They can beat anybody in the playoffs if Tyrese Haliburton is healthy and playing good. You should try to keep that player as long as you literally can, kicking and screaming to not have that player on your team. I have no reason to think the Pacers would ever trade him. Even 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years from now, I have no reason to believe Tyrese Haliburton would not want to be on the Pacers. Very easy number one. I had nothing else to add.
Yeah.
Was your number two also an obvious choice?
So I changed this at the last moment.
Right, let's go. Debate time.
I assume your obvious choice here is Pascal Siakam.
It is, yes.
All right. That's who I had. And literally like 10, 15 minutes ago before I got on this call, Tony, I thought about it. I thought it through, and I thought about the type of player. To me, I switched this out for Andrew Nembhard.
Wait. Oh, I was going to guess, is it Andrew Nembhard? Okay.
So my rationale here was, I think back to at the very beginning of this last playoff run, the Bucks series, I think it was game 2 when Nembhard kind of took over down the stretch. It was similar to game 1 of the Thunder series where all of a sudden they just realized Nembhard was kind of hotter than Haliburton and they were playing through him down the stretch. And I was just like, man, that is such a valuable playoff player to have. Like, that's a guy that, whether it's on the Pacers or somewhere else, I think his whole career is going to contribute to really successful quality playoff level teams because of just the fact that he can fit next to a ball dominant guard. He can guard really well, right? He guards the other team's best perimeter player on most nights. And then, of course, he's fearless. That's like, and I'm not the guy that's always like, oh, the mental side of the game or whatnot. But that's like the fact that Andrew Nembhard is as fearless as he is does matter in those playoff situations, as we've seen these last 2 years. And so in my head, I thought about it and I was just like, once again, I would have Nembhard and Siakam in the same tier, but I was just like, they play so well together. They play so well with the star player. He will still be under contract. And I just see a world where I slightly see a world, not really, but a world where maybe something happens with Pascal Siakam and they decide to move him, or maybe he even asks out if things aren't going well once Tyrese Haliburton comes back. And so I said, I think it is slightly more likely that Nembhard is still in Indiana 2 years from now.
Okay. Yes, a good debate here. So to be clear, first of all, I have also those players as 2, 3, and in the same tier. I think that's correct, to the extent that anyone is correct in this opinion exercise. For a lot of the same reasons you said. They both have right now 3 years left on their deal. So on September 24th, 2027, they'll both still be under their current contract, right? Great. That's generally a good sign that you have a good chance to still be on the team that you're currently on. They're both very important key starters. Many have made the case. I did at times last season. I don't know if I believe it now, but we'll see that Nembhard was their third best player literally last year, like ahead of Miles Turner, who is now no longer on the team. His extension just started. He's very good at the sport. If you were like in a lab designing the best 2 guard next to Tyrese Haliburton, it'd probably be Andrew Nembhard with a slightly higher 3-point percentage, right? Guess what? We just put Tyrese Haliburton first, so they should want Andrew Nembhard. I put Siakam. So here's why Siakam is not in Haliburton's tier, first of all. Both of these guys, I guess you could say this a little bit about. The way the Pacers' salary setup is, Siakam makes $45 million. Their next highest paid player this coming season is Nembhard at 18. So if they want to trade for somebody making like $25 million or more, it's really hard. Like, they have to stack a lot of players. That will be a theme coming up today. And if they want to trade for a player making like $40 million or more, Siakam is like a consideration. I'm not saying they should do that. They should probably try instead to trade non-stars for a star. But like, if the player's better than Pascal, they have to like have a meeting about it. And that's why I moved him down a tier, because is it possible to me in 2 years that a stud superstar is available and they're like, well, if we trade Siakam and a first and a young guy, like, we get him, would they think about it? Yeah, they would think about it. They probably should think about it, even though Pascal is awesome. I'm not saying I would suggest this or pursue this or be the team making the calls, the Pacers. It's just a reasonable thing to me. However, it's also reasonable to me that mid-20s-year-old Andrew Nembhard making $18 million, $19 million, $20 million the next 2 years would also be somebody of interest to other teams in such a style of trade, right? And is a good player. And if he really proves in a lead ball handler role this year, his value to other teams will only go up as a potentially great two-way player at a young age on a cheaper deal, especially for a starter. So I don't think the Pacers should want to trade either player, to be clear, but that is why they're not up a tier in any way. I just think as the best player on the team this coming year, and then they'll want to see a year of him and Haliburton back together to see what their true level is. I have Siakam slightly slightly above Andrew Nembhard. Let's say Nembhard has like a meh year as a lead ball handler this year. Like that's also, it's possible he's awesome, and then this sounds stupid, but like that's why I can't quite upside him over Siakam. But I do agree that they are 2-3 for all the reasons we've laid out. And it's just a lot of trade contract gobbledygook that made me decide to put Siakam 2, Nembhard 3.
My question to you, even if Nembhard has like a May year as this true point guard, primary ball handler, do the Pacers care? Like they're like, right. Okay, we didn't sign you to your contract to play that role anyway, right? And 7 assists, it's like great. But even if he does it, I don't know if they would like care about that and think of moving him because of that.
I would agree with that as like a thing that they'd be like, okay, who cares? Because they know he's a great 2 guard. We already said that. That's why he's this high on the list and fits in that role. The only reason that would be relevant is to his trade value to another team, basically, right? Who doesn't even have their long-term point guard, like Washington, San Antonio, Brooklyn. Like that's kind of it in terms of like ascending teams. So maybe one of those would be more interested in him. But outside of that, it would not. You're right. It would not change it too much. It just adds another avenue of like, oh, a very dramatic pursuit by this team that would not be there otherwise. Is your number 4 also a starter from last season?
My number 4 is not another starter from last season.
Oh, all right. I think we have diverging tracks here. This was the hardest player for me to rank is who I have 4th. So you tell me the name you have 4th, no explanation.
I have TJ McConnell at 4.
Wow. I have TJ McConnell way down. That is fascinating.
Really?
I probably should have had McConnell higher. Everybody, quick break so we can talk about FanDuel. The NFL season is here. Games back for the week tonight. FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff every single time with can't-miss offers. And right now, their current one, if you're a new customer and you join FanDuel, you can bet just $5. And if you win that bet, you will get $300. How about that? In bonus bets that you can use across the app for whatever you like. Everybody loves using FanDuel for different reasons. However you like to bet, they've got it for you, right? You want to build the same game parlay? They can do that. If you want to jump in on live action, you're watching a game, you want to add to the excitement, you can do that. Player props, you got it. Everything's more exciting. Whether you're watching your favorite team, you're just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. It's quick. It's easy. It's the best way to add a little more energy into your Sundays or Thursdays or Mondays or whatever. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That is FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Wow, I have TJ McConnell. I can't even count fast enough. I have TJ McConnell like 10th. That is fascinating. Wow. This was Aaron Nesmith is my 4th, and it was the hardest player for me to rank because 2 years from now, assuming just status quo, which I would never assume that in the NBA, he'll be a free agent. Like we just learned with Miles Turner, even on the assumption that a good player fits well and they should want to pay him. That doesn't mean he's going to be back. I at one point had Nesmith closer to like 8 or 7. The fact that he's extension eligible twice on reasonable extensions and fits well and loves this team that actually traded for him and bought in makes me think that the odds he's still around and he like Nembhard fits very well with the current Pacer stars made me be like, okay, he has to be in the top 5. Like when I had him in my original rank, I thought that was too low and too much based on his contract, but he's in a tier of his own here for me. But outside of that, I'm like, man, this does feel too high for a guy that literally could be a free agent under his own accord. Why did you have McConnell this high? The legendary franchise status, the perfect backup to Haliburton. What made you stick with him here?
Yeah, I think those things right there are kind of why he has shown and kind of talked about how he wants to be here. And the front office has talked about how badly they want him to still be in Indianapolis. I get your concerns probably with the contract, just the fact that he is going to be making over $10 million at the start of 27-28. And so that could be a thing. He's got a team option after that, after the 27-28 season, where I would assume as he's about 36 years old, I would assume the Pacers decline that and either that's the end of his time in Indiana or he just takes something $5 million or less to stay with the team. But I think the fact that he was locked up and has that security kind of gave me a little bit more safety in him. And because of the fact that there are still, so many question marks that we'll get to later down in this list. So for me, that is why I had TJ McConnell at number 4. But I get where you're coming from, having him lower and just saying, okay, that's a lot of money to be paying a guy that is going to be a backup point guard and in his mid-30s in a couple of years.
So McConnell was a hard player for me to rank as well. I think like the dream scenario is like that he is beloved. And again, what did I say at the beginning? 5 years ago, the only player on the team who was on the team 5 years ago was this guy, right? Beloved teammate. Connects well with coaches. Like there is no reason to think that they should want him not on the team. his contract is partially guaranteed 2 years from now, but it's partially guaranteed, I believe, to the extent that it's like waiving him doesn't actually help you that much as the Pacers. And then the team options the following year. So 2 years, he's probably contractually safe unless he's just awful in 2026, 27, which at his age, I would doubt it, but is not like off the table completely. He's in this tier of guys that I have many of that are like, they are good. The Pacers should want to have them, but also make a good amount to the point that like if they're going to trade for better players, their salary is extremely valuable in such a move. There's a lot of these guys, as I just said, but I ended up with McConnell a little lower for that reason. Is he is maybe not expendable, but like if Nembhard is going to get more reps as a lead option and then could potentially like be back a point guard and starting two, or Cam Jones ascends, or there's just lots of ways that McConnell's role gets smaller and he makes a good amount of money. Now, again, I think even if that's the case, whatever, ride it out for 2 years, waive him, and then he works for the team or, transitions to his front office life, wherever that's going to happen, his coaching life, wherever that's going to happen. If that's what he wants in his future, I don't even know that. The McConnell family blood seems to indicate it would. But where that is and how that happens is not exactly as clear to me. But they extended him like 2 years, or was that last summer? That was last summer. Like they clearly value him still to that point. So I'd probably have him too low. I'm going to move him up a tier at your idea. Good call.
But yeah, I like I said, because of the fact that they extended him last summer, it gives me some faith that they would still want to have him around. Once again, we got after the first three, it was difficult for me, and you said that as well. Very. It was just like, okay, what contract here? What contract will this player maybe be seeking right once he becomes a free agent? It was hard to fully put it into terms. So I kind of maybe went safe in saying, okay, TJ will be under contract to some extent, and that I think he would still be around.
Where do you have Nesmith?
5, right after him.
Okay. That's reasonable to me. Yeah, if Nesmith's extension was like not a reasonable contract for him, because the extension rules change. I don't want to get too nerdy here, but like the old extension rules, the offer the Pacers could have made would just straight up not been enough for Aaron Nesmith. Like he would have no reason to take it. If that was still the case, I'd have him way lower, because then the chance he's hitting free agency is really high. But I actually think right now and we're a week away from his extension eligibility beginning. It's the 4th when this comes out, exactly a week away. We'll learn a little bit about if our answer should be tweaked here, but the fact that it's a reasonable extension offer for him at least gives me the chance to say like, well, it's possible that free agency is a mirror for him. And with Turner last year, for example, he literally could not be extended. Like it was a guarantee Miles Turner was going to be a free agent, which really impacted his standing on any sort of exercise. And that leads me to my next massively large tier of, I guess I should say who my 5th player is. But my 5th player is in a tier with 4 other players. No, I can't count. That's 5 other players below Aaron Nesmith. And I'm just calling this tier dudes who who will still be under contract in 2027. They're sort of ranked in a specific order, but not really. Do you have like a clear guy you feel like is obviously under Nesmith at 6 for you, or would you like me to just list the players who are in this tier for me?
List your player. I want to hear what you have to say here.
Okay.
What's your list?
So you convinced me to move McConnell into this tier, even though he has that partial guarantee. So at the bottom of this group is a couple guys who have options covering the 2027-28 season. And that is obviously McConnell, who you convinced me to move up, Cam Jones and Johnny Furphy, and Jay Huff. Jay Huff has a team option for 2027-28. So does Johnny Furphy. Both those two guys are guaranteed contracts the next 2 years, and that puts him slightly above Cam Jones, who is partial guaranteed 2027-28 and half guaranteed the year before. So that's the bottom 4 of this group of 6 is Huff, Furphy, Cam Jones, and McConnell. I actually want to put McConnell above all those guys. Now that you really got me moving him up. He went from 10 to 7 just from your explanation. But my top 2 guys in this group, even though I think it's very logical for them to fit the trade ballast category that I talked about for McConnell and other players, are Obi Toppin and Isaiah Jackson, just simply because their contract runs beyond the next 2 years. And in the summer of 2027, they will still be under their current contract.
Wow.
Boring.
Okay. So
boring answer. I'm aware.
I'm with you on Obi Toppin. He's my number 6. So I think we're there. I had Isaiah Jackson much lower, and I think we might be having a reverse situation here where you say that, and I'm like, maybe I should have Isaiah Jackson second.
It is just because of his contract length to me.
And you say that, and I'm like, okay, maybe I should have him a few spots higher than I have him. I've got him at literally 14. And
wow.
Yeah. So maybe I should have had him a few spots higher now looking at Ajax. To me, I looked at him and just said, there's so many question marks, right? We don't know what he's going to look like coming back here. And I looked at it and said, this could just be a trade piece in a year or two, but he still will be under contract. The way I see it, so Toppin was my 6 here.
Yep.
And I had Jay Huff as my 7 because of his contract, because he's got a team option going into this season, this 27-28 season. That'll just be a little over $3 million.
So cheap.
Right. It's so cheap. I think it'll be so hard for him to not play up to that contract. And then if he plays above it, you're not getting much value from moving him because of how small the contract is. It's like you can't really trade that for anything. So to me, like, as long as he comes out this next year or two and isn't like abysmal, Jay Huff is probably just going to be around, right? As long as he's not abysmal or some sort of locker room cancer or anything like that, I think he'll just be around. So I've got him right after Obi Toppin here in my grouping, and those are my next 2 here.
Yeah, Toppin seems so to be clear, maybe Neesmith should be like thought about as this, but I don't. Everybody from Toppin down is like they could theoretically be tradable salary. Not that that'd be like what they're reduced to, but they make an amount that they would be stacked with someone else or with someone else's plural to get another player. And that's like a reasonable thing that could happen in the next 2 years. To me, trades are so unpredictable, you just never know, right? I have no idea. Some guys, it's very obvious, like Bruce Brown, right? People have felt that way about Toppin at times in the past. And then he was good last year and had an awesome playoffs and might be their best center this year. So he probably moved up, ironically, in this ranking. But yeah, being under contract for 3 more years really helps him. But everybody else the rest of the way, part of the case for them being where they are is that if a trade happens and a $20+ million per year player is available that fits the Pacers perfectly and they want to get him, they have to trade some of these names, like some guaranteed, basically, to be in this. But Toppin's deal's length put him here. Like Jackson, especially if Huff is good, Jackson seems also very logical to me to be someone that they'd be like, yeah, we'd sniff at putting this contract in that deal. And if Jackson's good, then maybe he'd be valuable to another team. But the length on those two made me put them here. Huff's team option is so small that it's like a fake team option. I might actually put him above McConnell because you said that. And Furphy and Cam Jones, who knows, man? Just shrug. Like they could just be like cast aside at some point, but they're so cheap. And like if they're anything interesting, you keep them around, and trading guys at that salary is really hard unless the team really values them. So they're just kind of here. If Cam Jones doesn't show anything this year, he would certainly be moved down. If Furphy doesn't get any rotation time this year, he'd certainly be moved down. But as of right now, the fact that there's still relative question marks on tiny contracts who at least seem to be decent players for their draft slot made me put them here instead of some names that everyone's probably wondering, why haven't we said them yet?
Right. And on Cam Jones specifically, I've got him a little lower than you do just because we haven't seen him. Right. I like the idea and the concept of him as a player, right? Based off his time at Marquette and everything. And I understand why they drafted him, but I've got him outside of the top 10 just because I just don't know as of right now.
One more break here, everybody. We got to talk about Skims. When I found out Skims was making underwear for men, I was intrigued. I still am. I have 3 pairs. I've heard so much about their quality from friends and family. I had to give it a try, and it lives up to the hype. Many people have issues, including me in the past, with underwear fit or comfort, the length, the style. Skims changes all that. Their men's line has something for everybody, from boxer briefs to classic briefs. They're all designed with the perfect balance of comfort and style. I got their stretch brief in high school and a little bit of college. I was a boxers guy. I switched to briefs, and never going back. The Skims stretch brief is the best. It's sleek, it's lightweight, it's comfortable. It feels like you're wearing nothing at all, which is awesome, but you're still secure where it matters most. Trust me, when it comes to underwear, I've tried a bunch. Skims is the best to do it. You can shop yourself and get them at SKIMS Mens on skims.com. Let them know we sent you after you place your order. Select the podcast in the survey and select Locked On Pacers in the drop down menu that follows. One more time, that is on skims.com. Okay, I've said 10 names. So is anyone in your top 10 that we haven't talked about yet? I assume one of them obviously is.
I've got 2. I think I've got 2. So once again, Obi Toppin's my 6, Jay Huff was my 7.
Yep.
At 8, I do have Ben Shepherd, which I could see why that's a surprise. But to me, if you're going to be trading or getting rid of some of the guys we've talked about, and specifically this next guy who I'm going to say, then that means that Ben Shepherd is probably a guy you try to extend even to a little bit of money. My number 9 is Bennedict Mathurin.
There it is.
I know you have even lower than that. Obviously, we've gone through all those players. And then I have Furphy at 10.
There we go. Okay. Mathurin, congratulations. We've reached this point of the conversation. There are 2 Pacers players who will probably be free agents next year, who maybe Cam Jones, I guess, but he's half guaranteed. There are 2 Pacers players who I would expect to probably be free agents next summer. Maybe Ben Mathurin gets extended, but it's Mathurin and Wiseman. Like that, for me personally, in this exercise, that really hurts your chances, right? Just because you are not under contract with the Pacers 1 year from now. For Mathurin specifically, restricted free agency is in theory on his side. Like the Pacers do want to have 2 more years of team control with him, even if he signs a qualifying offer, which this summer is showing us is not impossible. As we're talking, I have to say that every time I talk about this guy, because I kind of feel like it could happen any second now. Jonathan Kuminga is still not on a team. Quentin Grimes is still not on a team. They're both good. Ben Mathurin is good. Cam Thomas signed his qualifying offer. He and the Nets totally at odds. Josh Giddey got a fine contract. But regardless, it was not a kind summer to restricted guys. The dynamics next summer will be different. Mathurin is such like the game will decide it. And I think that's the best way to do this for any player. How you play will decide your future with a team. That's good. That should be what both sides want, honestly. But I think because the game will decide it, I kind of doubt, and I've made this case a million times, why I don't really think an extension makes sense for either side to want one right now. And I would not expect one to happen. Maybe one does. I would expect it to be more fair to the Pacers than Mathurin if one happens. So I think he's going to be a free agent next summer. And there's so many questions about fit and style that even though I think it's more likely than not, I said this, I did what are the odds with Jimmy Cook, and I said the odds that Mathurin is back next year, I said 80% for next season. The fact that he could, in theory, be a trade candidate, and in theory, be a free agent next summer, and in theory, then if he signs a qualifying offer, be an unrestricted free agent 2 summers from now, and all these questions remain about his fit with the team. I'm not saying that the odds are good that he won't be around, but I could not put him in the top 10 for all those reasons, even if I think that it makes sense that a year from now he would still be with the team.
No, that's understandable.
But he's very good at sport.
I looked at it from a perspective of, okay, what are the chances he has a really solid season, right? Rick Carlisle has already said that if everything goes right as far as training camp off season, he will be the starting shooting guard for this team this year. And so I looked at it from that perspective that, okay, if he has a pretty good season, they will just want to re-sign him. Now, we're still talking 2 years in advance here, so there's a chance they could give him a contract and still a year from now, or I guess 2 years from now, before this 27-28 season that we're talking about, the team still decides to trade him, right? And looks on to move him to
Jalen Green, for example.
Else. Exactly. Yes, it could be something like that where it's like, okay, we re-signed Jalen Green just to have this asset and this money that we can move to go get a star, all-star level player. So I could see that happening as well. But I just looked at it from obviously it's hard to guess with the contract stuff. But the perspective I took was just, okay, who do I think will play well enough to stay around, combined obviously with the contract stuff.
Good point.
I just think I have him higher than a Furphy or a Cam Jones for that reason.
Yeah, and you know what's funny is as I finished talking, I looked at my list again and I was like, having this group behind Cam Jones and Furphy just feels kind of wrong. Like those guys haven't done anything, right? And that's not their fault. They shouldn't have had chances to do anything. I was probably too contract pilled, and I'm going to move them. Congrats, you convinced me. So new tier behind TJ McConnell for me has Mathurin and 2 other guys that we have. Well, you mentioned one of them, not talked about yet. And then I will put Furphy and Cam Jones in this question mark tier at the bottom of that tier.
You've convinced me. I'm moving Isaiah Jackson between Mathurin and Furphy.
This is good. I actually think more rankings podcasts should be dynamic, where people are willing to move and change things mid-discussion.
Exactly. So yeah, I've got Jackson now up to 10 after being at 14.
Okay, so my Mathurin tier had 2 other guys in it. You mentioned one earlier. They both, in theory, will have their team option picked up in the next month. I think it's a certainty that they will. And then they will be restricted free agents the summer of this if they are not traded. That's Ben Shepherd and Jarris Walker, who both are good and young. And at this current stage, reserves, right? They could certainly ascend into more. They have positive trade value. They have restricted free agency, meaning that the chances they'd be back that summer would be more likely than not. But you just never know that they fall into the trade ballast category and hitting free agency in the summer that we're talking about category in a way that made me move them below some of the guys who are either under contract or do not have options, even though I would still, like with Mathurin, say the chances that they would be retained would be above 50%. I had to put them below guys who have a contract that season.
No, that's understandable. For me, I just looked at Ben Shepherd, and it seems like Rick Carlisle really likes Ben Shepherd, right? Even look at the second half of the season.
Likes Ben Shepherd, so good choice.
No, and Zion Brown does too. I'm just look at the second half of the season. In the regular season specifically, he struggled to shoot, and a lot of fans were like,
badly.
Why is this guy still in the rotation? But eventually the jump shot came back, and then the playoffs you saw, he gave sparks. I think of game 6 versus OKC, where he just was giving sparks out there. He guarded Brunson decently well for stretches in the Knicks series, and it's just like, okay, this guy's going to fight defensively, not always going to win those battles, but he will fight defensively, and when the shot's falling, he's worthy of minutes, and he's worthy of probably a okay second contract, right? Nothing crazy, but maybe something within that $5 to $10 million a year range for a few seasons.
3 for 20.
I had Shepherd
today.
Right, exactly. And so for me, I had Shepherd above Mathurin, and then, like I said, I think Jarris is below Furphy for me, just because.
Wow.
We haven't seen it, right? We haven't.
Yeah.
And even if we do see it, it depends on I still think it depends on what we see, how good it looks, and whether or not the Pacers will want to retain him after this upcoming season, or if they just say, hey, he's got 1 year left on his deal. We don't want to go to the restricted free agency with Jarris Walker. So let's just try to move him for something else coming up in a summer. So I feel like Furphy has a better chance of just sticking around, even if that doesn't necessarily mean he's a better player than Jarris Walker. And so I've got Walker all the way down at 12.
I forget what game it was. You might have just said it. It was either against the Knicks or Thunder in the playoffs, where Ben Shepherd in the same game hit an elbow jumper and like a running floater in the lane, and like 2 shots. He doesn't even take that much, and I was like, oh, they're gonna win. Like if that's happening, they just win the game. Right? Like if that's the kind of thing that they get from him, because the shot isn't consistent for him, and that's part of why I'm bullish, is I believe it will stick at some point, even though it hasn't yet, and if it doesn't, he won't be as valuable. Yeah, Jarris is fascinating because he did kind of find consistency in the latter end of last year, but then the playoffs were still kind of up and down. He still makes some of the same mistakes he's making. He just has a higher level when he's on and engaged. And that the fact that he could be so valuable, like if the defense ever clicks, it's just like, oh man, like you're playing this guy at least 25 minutes every game. I don't even know that's a high percent that player ever appears. But the fact that it's possible, maybe you put him at the top of this tier. I have Walker, Shepherd, Mathurin in that order, but I don't feel good about it. I honestly would accept any answer for that tier, or any answer for the ranking of those 3.
Right. Yeah. To me, Walker just seems like the least likely to stick around of the 3, especially when we've got Siakam and we've got Obi Toppin as high as we do. Right. It's like, okay, where does he fit into this? So for me, that's just the way I kind of looked at it, and I put Walker as low as I did.
Congrats to the following 5 players for being in the tier of gobbledygook of your contract expires after this season. I have no idea if you will be back or not. That has nothing to do with anything you have done or will do, which for me is in order: James Wiseman, Tony Bradley, Talon Peter, Ray J. Dennis, and Quentin Jackson. There's no rhyme or reason to that. If I had to give rhyme or reason, Jackson has a team option. He could be back another year. Why am I saying Jackson? Wiseman has a team option. They clearly like him enough to invest in him 2 years in a row. If he's any good this year, perhaps they keep him on that minimum deal, pick up that option. And if he's good again, great. They keep him. They love their development system, and they should. If they develop him, that's great. Tony Bradley has 1 more year under contract. They might not even need 4 centers now. The fact that they would need a 4th center 2 years from now, even less likely. The 2A guys is just guessing, but they just drafted Talon Peter, so I put him first. Ray J. Dennis I put second because this is kind of his rookie year. They didn't add him until the middle of last year. They clearly like him. They signed him to a 2-year deal when they did. Quentin Jackson's third, even though he's the best of their 2A players, because he's not toy eligible after this season. It's time for them to decide if it's standard contract time or not. And that's always tricky with these mid-20s players in terms of age. So maybe he pops this year, he gets a standard deal now. But that is how I rank those 5 players, to the extent that it even matters what their ranking is.
Yeah, I also have Wiseman ahead of Tony Bradley just because there's a higher upside, right? We know this guy, former number 2 overall pick, like you said, whatever they saw from him going into last year, they liked enough to bring him back even after, tearing his Achilles first game of the season. So I just think we know that if it clicks with Wiseman, it could look like something pretty solid versus we know what Tony Bradley is, right? He's a rebounder. He's just up there to hustle in, right? He's a guy who was out of the league, right, until the Pacers picked him up in March. So that's how I had it. I didn't rank the two-way players, but I think I probably agree with your assessment just because, like you said, Quentin Jackson has proven to be the best of those three guys. But since he won't be eligible for another two-way contract, I'm not really sure how or what the avenue is for him to, especially still be on this team 2 years from now. Maybe 1 year, like you said, maybe they decide to give him one of those center contracts. But I don't know, 2 years from now, if that's really a possibility.
It kind of speaks to the miraculous nature of what they did in the playoffs last year, that their backup center in the finals. And by the way, when the finals were happening, basically everybody was like, yes, Tony Bradley is playing better than Thomas Bryant in this matchup. He should be the backup five. And now everyone's like, yeah, he probably not even be on the team this year. Like, he's their fourth best center. It is crazy. That like another feather in the cap for Rick Carlisle, that he can be like, yeah, I made that dude like a good player in the finals, and everybody was like, yep, that's the right. It's crazy. What a wild ride for him from like 6 months ago, probably to the day, basically. Tony Bradley was like, is he going to be on the team? Is he even going to get another 10-day? And now that is a remarkable use of your resources by the team. I also had him 15th. Okay. I will read my final list in order and say the tiers, and then I will make you do the same. But this is dynamic. This changed while we were talking. Tyrese Haliburton 1 in his own tier. Pascal Siakam 2. Andrew Nembhard 3. That's a tier. Aaron Nesmith alone in his own tier at 4. Next tier of 4 players, Obi Toppin at 5. Isaiah Jackson 6. Jay Huff 7. TJ McConnell at 8. Next tier, Jarris Walker 9. Ben Shepherd 10. Ben Mathurin 11. Next tier, Johnny Furphy 12. Cam Jones 13. Next tier, James Wiseman 14. Tony Bradley 15. And the two-way players in that tier in 16, 17, 18. Talon Peter, Ray J. Dennis, Quentin Jackson.
There we go. So, yeah, for me, it is Tyrese Haliburton. Once again, tier 1, tier of his own. Andrew Nembhard at 2, Pascal Siakam at 3 in their own separate tier. Then my next tier would be TJ McConnell and Aaron Nesmith at number 4 and number 5. And then my following tier, hold on, I'm still trying to figure out my tiers here. I'll go Obi Toppin at 6.
Okay.
Obi Toppin at 6 with Jay Huff at 7. That's a tier. And then my next tier, Ben Shepherd 8, Bennedict Mathurin 9, Isaiah Jackson 10, Johnny Furphy 11, and I'll go Jarris Walker 12. That's a tier. Cam Jones number 13, probably tier of his own. Maybe you could loop him in with Wiseman here at the end, but I'll put Wiseman and Tony Bradley at 14 and 15 in their own tier as well, and then the three-way or the two-way players, those three at the bottom.
So our largest disagreements, to the extent they're even really disagreements, is Mathurin, Walker, and Isaiah Jackson, of all players, really sneaking in there. If his contract was 2 years, Isaiah Jackson would be way lower for me. The fact that it is 3 specifically is why he has the perch that he has. This was really fun, and this is the perfect listener response episode. So let us know your tiers, and any complaints about mine, please direct them to @ZionBrown with a 1 for the I. Is that correct? That is your handle, right?
Yeah, it's like a 1-0 and then another
it's a 10.
0.
Dang it. I thought I had that. Where can people find the things you do, Zion, besides just your Twitter feed?
Roundtable.io is where I'm writing about IU currently. You go to that. I believe it's roundtable.io/NCAA/Indiana for any Hoosier fans out there. Write about the football team right now. Basketball stuff really gets going next week. They'll have an open practice for the media. They'll have a scrimmage. They've got the new Hoops on Kirkwood event going on next week, and I'll be at all of those events covering that and doing all that. So covering IU football right now. If you want your coverage on the Iowa game coming up this week, I'll be there in Iowa City at Kinnick. So yeah, roundtable.io.
Okay, we've done our Pacer stuff. I have to complain. Hoosier hysteria being gone is a travesty.
Really? You think so?
Yeah. It was awesome.
Why?
It was fun. And in this era where the team is so different year to year, it's an even better way to show the players to your fans.
My question to you, when's the last time you've been to one?
I went to every single one when I was a student, but I haven't gone since then.
I'm not trying to
how many years ago that was? That would be 8 years now.
Thank you. Okay. I'm not trying to call you old. Here's what I'm saying. However, here's what I'm saying.
All right, how many years ago was that?
In the ones I went to, I just graduated in May, and I've been covering this team all 4 years. In the ones that I have gone to, they have not elicited much energy from the fans and the people who were there. So I think this change, and I'm not sure how well these new events are going to work and for doing that all anyways, but they're doing the hoops on Kirkwood. We know that's never happened. We don't know what that'll look like. That could be a disaster, or it could be the greatest thing ever. We'll have to find out next. We'll have to wait to find out next week. And then the men's basketball team is still doing an intra-squad scrimmage in Assembly Hall the day after that. So there are still chances.
Okay,
it's just not the same Hoosier hysteria. There are still chances to do that. And then they're bringing back Haunted Hall of Hoops, which I think ended while you were a student. Back when that was the Tom Crean thing, and so they are bringing that back for the first time since I can't remember if it's 2016 or 2017, but that is happening for the first time in some time here on October 30th. So they're trying new ways to engage the fan base once again, and we'll see how it works over this next month or so. They're playing 2 exhibitions, the usual Meridian one that'll be, we'll see what that looks like, and then they're playing one in Gainbridge Fieldhouse against Baylor. So they're just doing different things than what they've done over the past few years. Darren DeVries obviously trying to bring a different life to the program, and I'm not sure what it'll look like, but I do know that Hoosier hysteria over the last few years has been very uninspiring.
That's fascinating. I feel like it'd be better I don't know, better for what I liked it for in the era of the transfer portal. But I guess consequenceless games are certainly losing their appeal to fans. I think that is also part of this. So,
well, the last few years of Hoosier hysteria, they didn't even really scrimmage.
They just did the 3-point stuff and all that. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that would not be as fun. That would not be as interesting to me. Okay, I'll get off my high horse. This was very fun. Thank you for joining me. You will certainly be back.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me.
Everybody, pending, again, we're so close to the season. If Kuminga signs, like a million things could happen. Presuming no news in Pacerland tomorrow, we will finally do the point guard season previews to conclude that. And then the first day for us, where the Pacers will talk to us, is Thursday. So Friday, you'll hear all about that. Looking forward to it. Thank you all so much for listening. See you very soon.